Have you ever wondered if Shakespeare's most personal sonnet connects to ancient mystical visions of God's throne? No, you probably haven't. We've been taught for centuries this poem is about isolation, envy, despair, followed by the uplifting power of thinking on the beloved. But 400 years of scholars were wide off the mark because they never found the true source documents used by the poet. Today, we're diving deep into something absolutely fascinating that bridges worlds you might never have expected to be connected. We're looking at Shakespeare's Sonnet 29 through the lens of ancient Jewish mysticism, specifically the Zohar and its teaching about the Merkabah. The Merkabah, or works of the Chariot, represent divine visions of God's throne described in biblical texts. What's even more intriguing is how this connects to the sealed book mentioned in Daniel chapter 12 and the Lord's visit to Sarah in Genesis chapter 21. This isn't just academic curiosity. I found the source documents. We'll explore how these ancient Aramaic and Hebrew texts might illuminate one of literature's most beloved sonnets. By the end of this video, you'll see how the lark in Sonnet 29 might actually represent angels, and how the entire sonnet reflects mystical themes about the divine presence and spiritual transformation. I'm Dr. Peter D. Matthews, and it's 32 degrees Celsius here in Australia today, so please excuse my attire. I needed something cool. This is the third time recording today. My camera overheated, so I'm really having a lot of fun today. At least I found my sound issues. They were the camera, not my audio. Let's start by reading Shakespeare's Sonnet 29 and break it down line by line through this biblical lens. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I, all alone, beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least, yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sing hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. Shakespeare's Sonnet 29 begins with those famous lines about being in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes. The sonnet opens with the speaker in a state of spiritual darkness, much like the concealed wisdom described in Zohar Hadash. When the poet writes, when in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I alone beweep my outcast state, where the poet described a soul separated from divine light. Zohar Hadash 1, 113a speaks of souls that wander in darkness before encountering the divine presence. It is called hell below for the wicked, for hell is a land of darkness and utter gloom. It is a land as dark as midnight, a land of gloom and confusion, where even the light is dark as midnight. Job 10:22, which we discussed a little bit in the last sonnet. This darkness isn't permanent, though. It's a necessary stage before spiritual awakening. In the Talmudic passage from Bava Batra, 16a, we find similar themes about righteous people experiencing periods of apparent abandonment. And I do say apparent, because he does not abandon the righteous. I must make that clear. Never. The second line, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, reflects the soul whose prayers it seemed to go unheard. It also mirrors the fate of the seducer Satan, for his destiny is already set in stone. But according to the Zoharic teaching, these cries of the soul are actually being gathered by specific angels. This is where our understanding of the lark in the sonnet becomes crucial to our interpretation. The Zohar describes the angels Raziel and Tishbash as collectors of human prayers and songs of praise, and they're actually called in the Zohar larks of dawn. So it's word for word, straight from the Zohar to the sonnet. It's incredible. Raziel, whose name means secrets of God, is associated with the divine mysteries and hidden knowledge. Tishbash represents the transformation of suffering into spiritual elevation. When the poet's speaker mentions looking upon himself and cursing his fate, this mirrors the soul's examination described in Babylonian Talmud, Pisakim 54a. The Talmud teaches that 7 things were created before the world itself: the Torah, Teshuvah, meaning repentance, the Garden of Eden, hell, they actually describe it as Gehenna, the throne of glory, the temple, talking about the temple of Jerusalem, and the name of Messiah with the letter Shin. And we've discussed this many times about the letter Shin and how it connects to Shin Shin in the sonnets. This connects to the sealed book referenced in Daniel 12:4, which speaks of knowledge being sealed until the end times. In the Hebrew, this sealed book is called Zohar. The Zohar of Mantua holds that this sealed knowledge contains mysteries about the Merkabah and Messianic revelation. Now let's examine the pivotal moment in the sonnet where everything changes. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising. This transformation mirrors exactly what happens in Genesis 21 verse 1 when the Lord attends Sarah. The Hebrew text uses specific language about divine visitation that the Zohar interprets as Merkabah activity. In Bava Metzia, the Talmud describes how the divine presence manifests in moments of seeming impossibility, like divine conception, along with 3 angels who came with the Lord. Sarah's situation appeared hopeless by any natural standards, yet divine intervention transformed everything. Wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, wishing for a son and be rich, featured like the Creator, where Archangel Michael procreated seed in a barren woman. Is that not art? How beautiful is this? Desiring this man's art. For Sarah not only desired Michael's art, but Sarah desired the scope or vision of Raziel embodied in her son. Is it the Creator's scope or is it Tishbash's scope? Because she says, desiring this man's art and this man's scope. Tishbash transforms suffering into joy just as Messiah. So it could be either. Maybe a slight twist on this. Or is it the rung of supernal love? For the Creator bestowed 7 blessings upon Abraham and Sarah, when he came. These are the 7 Hebrew blessings bestowed upon every Jewish marriage after Abraham. Now, my Jewish friends will be able to recite them, or at least remember them. We do not recite them in Christianity. We have our own vows. It is like celebrating the harvest festival of Shavuot. Sarah declared, "God has brought me laughter. All who hear about this will laugh with me." Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse a baby? Yet I have given Abraham a son in his old age. Genesis 21, 6-7. Turning to the sonnet again. With what I most enjoyed contented least. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising. You can imagine the mockery of other women talking, although Sarah was overjoyed, but yet almost despising. Now, we know that there was one woman who certainly did despise, but I won't take that any further. Notice Sarah says almost in this, and I'm talking about Emilia writing as Sarah. Moving on. The larks arising at daybreak represents the soul's ascension through the Merkabah levels. According to Zohar 1:34b, there are specific stages of spiritual ascent that the soul must traverse, and we discuss these in the last 2 sonnets. Each stage corresponds to different angelic encounters and levels of divine revelation, because at each gate there is an angel standing on either side, and there is a key that opens that gate. And as we delve deeper and deeper into it, we learn more and more and more along the way. The lark, representing the angels Raziel and Tishbash, carries the soul's prayers upwards through these levels. Raziel opens the mysteries, while Tishbash transforms the soul's suffering into joy. This is why the poet speaker experiences such a dramatic shift from despair to elation. You see, so many scholars have missed the understanding behind it because it's based upon Zohar Hadash. The line "from sullen earth sings hymns at heaven gate" perfectly captures this Merkabah ascension, like the lark Raziel, giving an account of all secrets before the king, because he's also the scribe that writes all these things down in his book, which we'll delve into a lot more later. Now, this is not the Merkabah, but it gives us some idea of his majesty and power described by the prophet Ezekiel. Zohar Hadash 113a to 116a provides detailed descriptions of how souls rise from earthly concerns to heavenly awareness. This process isn't just metaphorical. The Heaven's Gate reference connects directly to Jacob's ladder and Ezekiel's vision of the divine throne, which I discussed in the last 2 sonnets. And I'm sorry I'm getting a bit of glare on the side of my face from the window open, but I've got to let the breeze in. It's just too hot. Babylonian Talmud, Ketubot 111a, we find discussions about how the divine presence will be revealed in the Messianic age, which we're now in, depending on your view of eschatology. The transformation described in Sonnet 29 prefigures this ultimate revelation where everything must come together for Christ's return. When the speaker's state changes, like to the lark at break of day arising, this mirrors Messianic dawn, when the dead are resurrected, allowing Abraham and Sarah to rise from their graves. And I'll butt in here a little bit because one of the gateways to heaven is actually where their grave is, in the cave of Machpelah. And I'm about to mention it. Like a lark at heaven's gate, in this case the cave of Machpelah, where they're buried. It will be absolutely full of light as the doors to heaven open. The connection to Jesus Christ as Messiah becomes clear when we examine the Merkabah traditions. The Zohar describes the Messiah as one who perfectly embodies the divine throne's characteristics. Christ's role as mediator between heaven and earth reflects the Merkabah's function as a divine vehicle. The sealed book of Daniel represents knowledge that has become accessible now because it is a sign that we have already entered the Messianic age. In Christian theology, Christ unseals what was previously hidden. The Apostle Paul wrote, I want them to have complete confidence that they understand God's mysterious plans, which is Christ himself, Colossians 2:2. Now, I also want to mention, because a lot of my Jewish friends may not realize, but Apostle Paul, as Christians talk about, is Rabbi Saul of Tarsus. He did his training under Rabbi Gamaliel, so he was a very well-educated man, and he had a Damascus Road experience. In other words, after Christ had gone to heaven, he spoke out to him from the heavens on the Damascus Road. He was the one who was actually persecuting and committing Christians to death. This is who the Apostle Paul was. And Jesus spoke to him, blinded his eyes, and made him go into Damascus. You know, you've got to understand this is in context to Judaism. All of his teaching is based upon his teaching from Judaism. Now, he also wrote in Colossians 1:26-27, this message was kept secret for centuries and generations past, drawing from Daniel. But now it has been revealed to God's people, for God wanted them to know that the riches and glory of Christ are for you Gentiles too. And see, he was Jewish, and this is the great secret. Christ lives in you. This gives you assurance of sharing his glory. Now, the Zohar's mystical understanding supports this by describing how divine secrets become revealed through the Messiah. Sarah's experience in Genesis 21:1 prefigures this revelation. Her impossible situation, transformed through divine visitation, parallels how the Messiah transforms human impossibility. The Lord's attending to Sarah uses language that implies intimate divine presence. This same intimacy appears in Shakespeare's sonnets when thoughts of the beloved transform everything. The beloved in the sonnet can be read as representing Shekinah or at times the Messiah himself. Moving to the sonnet's conclusion, we see themes that directly parallel Merkabah Kabbalah. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. This wealth is not material. It represents the spiritual riches described in the Bible and in the Zohar. According to Zoharic teachings, souls that achieve Merkabah connection gain access to divine treasures. These treasures make earthly wealth appear worthless by comparison. The speaker's willingness to scorn changing places with kings reflects his spiritual transformation. In the mystical tradition, the souls that connect with the divine presence become royal itself. This connects to the Messianic theme because the Messiah transforms ordinary people into spiritual royalty. Instead of scorn, apply your heart to instruction and your ear to words of knowledge. Proverbs 23:12. From Holy Spirit, the Word, the Bible, the angels offering praise to our King of Kings by the sweet spring, changing our state with the King. Now we can begin to understand these passages. The Babylonian Talmud that we've been referencing here all support this understanding. We can learn from many of its illustrations. For example, Bava Batra 16a discusses how apparent divine absence actually conceals deeper divine presence. Even though we think God's not there, we don't feel it. Oh my goodness, that's the time you dig your well. That is the time. Bhavametsia 86b shows how divine visitation transforms impossible situations. Just like Sarah, miracles can happen. Even right here, right now, I've seen it happen. I'm waiting for one myself. Pisarcum 54a reveals how certain spiritual realities existed before creation itself. Ketubot 111a points ultimate messianic revelation when all will become clear. Everything. Zohar Hadash 113a to 116b provides a mystical framework that ties all these themes together. It describes how souls move through levels of concealment and revelation, and we discussed this in the last couple of summers. The process begins in darkness and separation, just like the Sonnet's opening lines. Through angelic intervention, represented by Raziel and Tishbash, the soul begins ascending. This ascension follows the Merkabah pattern described in Ezekiel's vision. The divine throne becomes accessible through stages of purification and elevation. The lark song represents the soul's prayer transformed into heavenly praise. At the culmination, the soul's experience unity with God's presence. This unity makes all earthly concerns fade away. They disappear. The speaker's final state of not wanting to change places with kings reflects this achievement. The connection to Christ as Messiah completes this picture. Through messianic revelation, the sealed book of Daniel becomes opened. The mysteries hidden since before creation become accessible. The Merkabah vision point towards this ultimate revelation. Sarah's experience of divine visitation prefigures the transformation available to all through Christ. Shakespeare's sonnets captures these mystical themes perfectly. The movement from darkness to light, from earth to heaven, from despair to joy. All of this reflects the soul's journey through Merkabah levels toward divine union. What we've discovered today shows how literary masterpieces can illuminate ancient spiritual truths. Shakespeare's Sonnet 29 isn't just about human love or remembering friends. It reflects the soul's journey towards divine connection. The Zoharic teaching about the Merkabah provide a mystical framework that enhances our understanding. Angels Raziel and Tishbash, represented by the lark, carry our prayers from earthly suffering to heavenly joy. The sealed book of Daniel, the Zohar, points towards messianic revelation that makes these mysteries accessible today. Sarah's experience of divine visitation shows us how God transforms impossible situations. We can have miracles. Through Christ Jesus the Messiah, we see how the Merkabah vision find their ultimate fulfillment. If this exploration of literature and mysticism intrigued you, please like the video and share it with others who might appreciate these deeper spiritual connections.